Hey folks, this is RRPG here, and I'm here to deliver my 2 cents on this topic because I'm sure that there are those who are wondering what my impressions are from the teaser trailer that was shown for the new and upcoming Ninja Turtles movie. First of all, I got a couple disclaimers before I get started. For those of you wondering when I'm going to get back to my TMNT review series based on the 2012 TV show, I'm not entirely certain when I'm going to return. Truth be told, I'm having a blank with my creativity on how to deliver the episodes because I do not want to always continue to portray screenshots all the way. It takes a lot of time to watch an episode and pause at the correct moment to give off a good screenshot because there are times when motion blur from the episode prevents excellent moments to take a snapshot during production. I want to do episodes where footage is in the video, but with YouTube delivering copyright strikes based on footage from the show, I can't really do anything about that. You might say that there are those who have done it, but the thing is that those people are only putting up the full episodes, which is them bending the rules and breaking the law by committing piracy. I, on the other hand, don't do that kind of thing. So for those of you wondering when I'm going to get back with reviewing another episode, just don't even bother asking. There are others who have done their reviews long before me, like Andre from Black Nerd Comedy, so there's someone you can watch until I get on with my gig because it is always better late than never. Not to mention, I have been working a lot, as I do have a life outside of YouTube, so that is another reason why production on episodic reviews has been put on a halt. Anyway, that is disclaimer number 1, but disclaimer number 2 is for you to enjoy the footage that you see in the video. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan for the Game Boy. This was released back during the lifetime of Nintendo's first true portable handheld, and it was developed and published by Konami from around the world. Ultra Games, that published the game in North America, is a subsidiary of Konami because they needed an alternative to get past Nintendo's licensing agreements to where they were only allowed to release a set number of games a year to ensure quality assurance between all developers and publishers. So even though the North American release is published by Ultra Games, it is still Konami in disguise. Even the first and second NES game were published under Ultra Games as well. Anyway, what can I say about this gem? It's a decent side-scrolling action game that is very short, but very simple. It's no masterpiece of an action game for the Game Boy, but the premise was very clean, very simple, and where the difficulty is balanced except for boss battles if you don't know how to beat them. Either way, it's fun for a Game Boy title, and I know that its sequel, Back to the Sewers, is a more superior game, so enjoy the footage while you are at it. Now, the teaser trailer for Michael Bay's Ninja Turtles. To start off, I was skeptical when it was announced that Michael Bay and Platinum Dunes were working on a brand new live-action TMNT film, which I have vocalized from videos from before. Now let me start off by saying that I am happy they are returning to the live-action scene, because the first 2 films were fun and satisfying experiences in their own ways. The third one is one that most, if not all of us, can agree on was a piece of crap. The CGI film from 2007 was not a bad movie either. Too bad it had a distorted plot that had no actual consistency or explanation as to why this happens or what these things have to do with the origins of our heroes. The 5th movie that was done in 2009 called Turtles Forever that was put out by 4Kids was actually quite a surprise. Granted, I still despise the company even though they are already gone, but the way they handled the Ninja Turtles property with Mirage Studios was nicely done. Turtles Forever was a nice treat for older and newer fans alike, but I still have some riffs with the movie, like how 4Kids portrayed the Turtles from the 1987 cartoon, with them making them very goofy and out of character, but it was nice to see them regardless. Now, with the new movie that is coming out. When the film was announced, there was hardly anything surprising or shocking to make us more well known as to who was going to be in it, or who was behind the production aside from Michael Bay, since he pretty much ruined the Transformers that all of us grew up with. It's a good thing to know, though, that the guy is only being helmed as producer, as Jonathan Liebsman is the director because he does a much better job at directing than Michael Bay, as that guy is better at being a producer than a director these days. However, most people can agree that whenever Michael Bay is attached to a project that is in relation to something that they like, they will go ape nuts and become extremely biased and very worried. You gotta admit that the guy has taken lots of risks to change things up to appeal to today's standards. But not everything works in this day and age, because the shticks of today don't always work for older material. I mean, seriously, who thought the idea of adding allegations of racism in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen? Oh, that's right, it's Michael Bay of all people. The upcoming 2014 film could go either way, but the way I am seeing things is that the film has more of a darker edge, but being done with things that just don't seem to work out well. I'll give you my negatives before I give you my positives on this so you can see what I mean. One of the things I particularly did not like was the fact that the Foot Clan looked like a covert ops military because they are carrying guns. When was the last time a ninja used a gun aside from Snake Eyes and G.I. Joe? I'm just saying that I hardly ever see the Foot Clan have any melee weapons on them like katanas, sais, nunchucks, bow staves, kusardigamas, or anything like that to go up against the turtles. Them having machine guns on them just doesn't seem realistic for their character. Now, it's not to say the same that the Foot Clan never used guns, as that is not true at all. They used guns in the video games and the 1987 cartoon because of their allegiance to Krang in Dimension X. This, on the other hand, just doesn't bode well for the villainous de facto. Now, this is probably because of how the Shredder is being portrayed in the movie as the corporate business owner named Eric Sachs, whose power and money rule over Manhattan. Another thing I was not very fond of was how they portrayed the Ninja Turtles. Now, this does not go towards the fact that they have different kinds of attire to fit their personalities, because I think that works really well. The thing that annoys me is that the Turtles look like giants and not the same height as, nor shorter than April O'Neil. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the movie doesn't emphasize the term of the property where our heroes are supposed to be teenagers, mutants, ninjas, and turtles all in one. It seems like they got 3 out of 4 of those terms right for how they are portrayed in the upcoming flick. Speaking of turtles, I'm not really fond with how their faces have nose holes, which make them look like sea turtles than regular box turtles. Plus, the structure of their noses make them look more human. Not that it's a bad thing, because the turtles appear to look like humans based on their humanoid features. But just something about them with their faces in this film just doesn't mesh well for me. Even Red Fly Studios that made Out of the Shadows had the characters appear to have nose holes on their beaks, but they didn't look all that terrible from everything else. It's just that one shot with Mikey, after he removes his bandana, was what was scary, as it made me think I was looking at the guy who portrays him in the motion capture, Noel Fisher. Another thing that concerns me is that one part in the trailer where Raph uses his own body to wreck an army vehicle. I'm not saying that it's all weird, as there were some characters who were monstrous big that slammed into vehicles and crushed them like candy, like Hun from the IDW comic, as he was thrown onto a car by Slash. That makes sense, as large characters like those are supposed to cause collateral damage to setting structure. If the Turtles are supposed to look more human than monster, how is it that Raph can make the Hummer look all crippled after he slams into it with his shell when Donnie throws him into it? Remember in the second episode of the 1987 cartoon when Liu threw Mikey into the wall at the beginning during the training spar? Yeah, it wasn't possible to dent that wall to begin with. Even the whole thing where Batman crushes Scarecrow's getaway van was cheesy, as that isn't even possible in The Dark Knight. Not very realistic as much as what Raph does in this film. The last part is not so much as something I dislike, but something that is a question to be answered. If William Fichtner, as Eric Sachs, is supposed to be the American rendition of Oroku Saki from the franchise, as he has strong ties with April O'Neil's father, then mentioning anything about the ties between him and Hamato Yoshi from the franchise, then where does that leave the origin of our heroes and Master Splinter? Is April's father the one who is supposed to represent Hamato Yoshi in the movie? Are the Turtles and Splinter going to be reincarnated from their former lives in the Sengoku period like in the IDW comics? Or what is the new take on their origin for this movie? You see, there are so many questions that leaves me wondering how they are portraying the origin of our heroes, as the ones done in the original comics, the TV shows, and the IDW comic storyline are done very well, that it is making me skeptical how our heroes are supposed to be tied to the support cast and the villains. The many questions I ask about this makes me even more curious about their different origins. I just hope they don't stick with them being tied as aliens, because that is sure to piss off the fan base. Okay, now let us shift gears and take a look at some of the positives I see in the film. First of all, I like the cast that they have in the movie. Now before I go on any further, I will say that Megan Fox playing April O'Neil is one thing I'm keeping my mind open about. We only saw her in the trailer where she talks to Eric Sachs and taking pictures of the Foot Clan fighting the Turtles in the shadows as they are getting beaten up and even passing out after meeting the Turtles for the first time. I know she gets so much flack after her breakthrough into fame with the Transformers movies, but you have to admit that she has starred in better roles than that. And this one is one I have to see if her performance for April O'Neil is actually worth it. To get back on track, the cast they have portraying the characters are ones that I'm actually very intrigued. I mean, you gotta admit that having very promising actors like William Fichtner, Whoopi Goldberg, and Arrested Development's own Will Arnett playing characters that we actually know. You got Fichtner playing the Shredder, Goldberg playing Bernadette Thompson, a female rendition of April's boss from Channel 6 News in the 1987 show, and Will Arnett playing Vernon Fenwick from the same show, who was the wisecracking but cowardly team member of April's news report team. Speaking of which, I am very happy that this movie is paying more of an homage to the 1987 show in every way, even if the movie is sort of grim and dark. I always thought that side characters like Bern and Vernon were very enjoyable, even if they weren't entirely for what April went through, and I can imagine that they won't be any different with how they're played in this film. The only things that are missing are Krang, Dimension X, Bebop, Rocksteady, and Baxter Stockman, either in his scientific form or his fly form. Add them in there, and you will probably have the best movie, if they are portrayed correctly and not in a terrible manner whatsoever. Now, getting back to the Turtles, I like how they are given all sorts of attire to reflect the personality of the characters. Leo has bamboo armor on him because of his strong code towards the way of the ninja. Mikey has denim shorts and a hoodie around his waist to give him more of that hip party dude look. Donnie has gadgets like the Sam Fisher goggles from Splinter Cell to portray his geeky, scientific nature, and Raph's clothes are all rugged, torn, and beaten up because of his aggressive nature and wanting to fight. Even though many people may not like how they look with all that fancy gear, you gotta admit that the stuff that each of them wear makes so much sense. If they had those things on where they didn't symbolize their personalities and likenesses, then they wouldn't even fit. I also like how over-the-top and action-packed the Turtles looked when they were in those sequences when Raph crushed that Hummer to when Leo jumps into the air and in front of April O'Neil at the end of the trailer. Many action sequences like that, which happen in the cartoons and in Japanese animation, has me believing that this movie is going to be one hell of an action flick. Because when it comes to Ninja Turtles, action has been a strong delivery within the many iterations of the franchise as much as story development. I wouldn't say that the trailer represents the same level of material as Marvel's Avengers, but from what was shown is a testament that this could turn out really good for that kind of thing. I just hope that the Turtles are strongly focused on what happened in the live-action Transformers films, as the Transformers seems secondary than primary. One last thing I like is that it seems as though the movie is going to have the Turtles and Splinter dubbed over like in the original live-action trilogy. From what we know, both Leo and Master Splinter have people who are voicing them. Johnny Knoxville from Jackass is voicing Leonardo, while the main star from Monk, Tony Shalhoub, voices Splinter. Johnny Knoxville may be a hit-or-miss type of guy, because of how people like to portray him in positive and negative outlooks. But he isn't just prone towards Jackass, as he has starred in some roles that were actually done for the right reasons. Tony Shalhoub, on the other hand, is probably a bold choice, but I'll have to wait and see if his performance is good or bad. The recent TV spot gave me high hopes when I heard Tony Shalhoub voice Master Splinter, so that's all good. Instead of going any further into detail, I'm going to wrap up this video and say that what is being brought to the table for this film has given it potential to be a really awesome reboot, if not the best. There are many questions that need to be answered with whatever official trailers are coming out, because what we saw has left me feeling a bit cringeworthy and hopeful for many reasons. On the negatives, I should stress the fact that not all of the problems I have with the teaser will ultimately bring the whole movie down, as what you are hearing comes from a big fan of TMNT. I want to be excited, but I have concerns that could easily bring down the experience, while I feel that there are huge positives that could benefit the movie for the better. My only hope is that Jonathan Liebsman doesn't go too far with making this new trilogy too hip for the kids of this day and age, which is one thing that we all have to admit. The movie and this new trilogy are targeted for kids more so than just us, the fans. I know Kevin Eastman has given so much reassurance in saying that the writing for this film will blow everyone away, while Peter Laird shows his discontent for some of the things that are being done for it. But that really isn't uncommon, as both Eastman and Laird have had many conflicting opinions over one's ideas over the other when they worked on the original comic. In the end, I hope that this movie turns out to be awesome as much as most of the other representations of the franchise that we have seen and not become one of the worst reboots ever done. But I guess we'll have to wait and find out when this movie launches on August 9th, 2014 from all over the world. I'm also going to buy the action figures and add them to my room, even if the movie rocks or sucks, because I like having the different renditions of the heroes in the half shell in my collection. Alright guys, make sure to rate this video as well as leaving your positive and negative feedback down in the comments. If you're going to see the movie, remaining hopeful about what is being brought to the table, or have strong discontent with where this movie is going, then let me know why. Also, hit the subscribe button underneath the video, as more support from you guys means that more content will come from me in the future. This is Double RPG leaving you all by saying Godspeed, and game on, gamers. Have a good one.
You